I generally support the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's not perfect, and my major objection to it is that the cost control mechanisms in there are not as strong as they need to be. If we can get our hands around the growth of medical care costs, we will virtually eliminate the problems we have with the debt and the deficit in outlying years. That's the thing that, in relationship to Medicare, is the biggest issue is controlling medical cost growth. And in the last 2 years since the passage of that law, medical cost growths have dropped to 4% a year, which is still too high. It's still over the rate of general inflation, but it's a step in the right direction. I think there are things that can be done in the Act that would promote even more cost growth savings. There were 50 million people that didn't have health insurance. They were charging $43 billion in the healthcare system, and you were paying for it. And so now these people get a chance to pay for their own health care.
We have less than 2 minutes. Let me get real quick. Let's go through the three of you on the issue of term limits. Should we have them for the U.S. Congress? Mike Koffenberger.
No, I believe that the voters determine term limits.
Harry Ferguson.
I don't think term limits is a good idea. I think you should redistrict and nonpartisanly and change the way campaigns are financed. I myself have limited myself to 6 terms.
And Scott Perry?
I'm fine with term limits as long as they apply to every member of Congress equally.
So yes, yeah, you're in favor of that. And you don't see the point that Mike is making about.
Well, as much as I don't like it, it's a seniority-based system, and when our member of Congress leaves, we have less representation. It's unfortunate, but I think it's in a practical sense, it's true. So, that's the system we're in. You work within it while you try and change it.
So, Harry, you've limited yourself. Mike, if you were to win, you would just.
If someone were to create a law that said that we had term limits, fine. But I think that we're taking more choices away from the voters, and coming in as a minor party candidate, your choices at the polls are usually restricted anyway because of what we talked about earlier, keeping people off the ballot.
Okay. I think we're about ready for closing statements, RJ. Okay, let's get to the closing statements. Let me thank you all before we start that, and let's begin with Scott Perry.
Well, again, to Bill and RJ, and of course Dan, who's here, I'd like to thank 580 and the listeners. I do believe the country's headed in the wrong direction. Again, we've got $16 trillion in debt, which we're headed to nearly twice the debt in 4 years that it's taken all the presidents prior to us to amass. We've got 23 million unemployed Americans. That's nearly twice the population of Pennsylvania out of work. 43 million people on food stamps, nearly double or over double the folks in poverty. We're double the price of gasoline. Regulations abound, especially with the president's health care plan. We have external threats like Iran that are not being dealt with adequately, and I think we can do better. I have been, I think, a reasonable and bipartisan member of the state legislature for just 5 years, and I think I can take the business experience, the military experience, and the leadership experience I've had at the local level to Washington and be an effective voice for you in Congress, and I would ask for your consideration of me and your vote for Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike Koffenberger.
I'd like to thank everybody here at 580 for the opportunity to participate. It's not often that we do get all the invitations. I would like to ask the public to think about their vote. In all their votes in the past, the pendulum has swung back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans. And ask yourselves really how much changes, how many of the problems in Washington really get fixed, how many get worked on. It seems like we're always kicking the can down the road, and I'm in this race because I fear for my children's future. And I think that my generation is probably the first one that's not going to do as well as their parents. And I fear for what my children have to go through and where they stand. So I'm asking the voters to look at the candidates, to consider another voice in Washington. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Harry Ferguson.
First of all, thank you very much for having us here today. It's been very beneficial to the voters to hear our different positions, and I hope they take away the information they need to make an informed vote. I'm not afraid for our country's future. I think that We have some serious problems, but they can be addressed, and we need to send people to Washington who are serious about addressing it. We can't send people that want to go down and play partisan politics. We can't send people down who have already signed up to be part of the failed leadership that we've had in Congress already. What we need to do is focus on what the problems are, bring people together and work across the aisle, and I pledge to do that. The only pledge I'm making other than that in this election is I will represent everybody in the district regardless of their party affiliation, their beliefs, their ideas, or opinions. And first and foremost, above party and above my own career. This is not necessarily a job I want. This is the job I think I need to take. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the debate of the candidates for the 4th Congressional District of WHP 580, brought to you by Williger Rod and McAvoy Architects in Harrisburg.